All right. Good late morning, everyone. For all of you from close or afar who are sharing your time with myself and Stewart here. Stewart, how are you?
Good. How are you, Bill?
I'm doing well. I'm assuming you, like me, you're just enjoying this wonderful summer weather that we're getting.
Oh, yeah, for sure. There's nothing better than sun and warmth, especially when you're taking a break from rains or cold or even snow for that matter.
So true, so true. And unlike some of our brothers and sisters either on either coast, at least we're getting the ideal summer weather here in Chicago. Why? Because we know this for sure. The other seasons here, they make us kind of relish, like, hey, those 3 or 4 months of summer, let's cram everything into that window of time.
Yeah, for sure.
So let's start off today, Stuart, with your sharing your knowledge, your expertise with current trends and a market update. And guess what, everyone? Guess what? For all of you today, we're actually going to do this current trends market update across a large part of Chicagoland. So, Stuart, the floor is yours.
All right. Well, the most interesting thing that I saw this week was we had received notice from our listing board, which is called MRED here in Chicago, which stands for I forget what it stands for. Anyway, that being said, they put out a informative email stating that for the third week in a row, Chicagoland as a whole is down on new listings.
Wow.
And this week alone, we were down, or I should say last week, right? You go after the fact. So last week alone, we were 4% down week on week. But for the year, we are 29% down year on year. So that's a big indicator that we just do not have enough inventory in of itself. And I had looked at some numbers for Lake County for to be specific, and what I did was I just looked at what most people are looking at, right? Most people are looking at single family homes. Most people want 3 bedrooms, at least 1.5 bath, and anywhere between like a low of 250 to a high of 750, right? So you're not in the upper echelon of the people that can, have wealth, and you're not at the bottom of the barrel where you are really scraping, quarters, for lack of a better term, right?
Right.
So that being said, with the average person at 250 to 750, we are looking at the last 2 months, we closed, and that means totally sold, totally closed, bank, funded and everything, 555 properties. And the average sale price of all of that was about $414,000. Wow. And average market time was 22 days.
Yep.
Which I really am fascinated by, because the listings that are on market right now that are active and ready and waiting for someone to make an offer on them, there was 165 properties, and with an average sale price of about $462, but yet the market time on those is 102 days.
Mm-hmm.
And I really found this to be fascinating, because it shows us that if you're not ready, if your place does not look beautiful, and if you're overpriced, which it looks like to me when the average goes up on active listings versus listings that are selling or sold, that tells me that those are the properties that are having trouble, that they're not listening to their agents, or they're just, thinking that they could get much more money than they can, or they're not in good showing condition. And that's why they're still on the market. And I even went as far as to compare that with what's under contract. With what's under contract, I came up with 278 properties under contract. And again, a lot more than what's out there. and an average price point of $445 or $445,000, which again is below what's the average on active properties, and only a 60-day average of market time. So again, the ones that are selling in less time for less money. So that tells me, to remind the public, be wise about how you price your home, and be more wise about how you present your home. The better you present it, the better you price it, and not meaning give it away, right? You don't want to give away money. You want to speculate. You want to try and push the envelope. Everybody does. Everybody wants to make the most money we can. I certainly do. Even as a realtor, I want to make as much as possible.
Right.
That being said, we really should prepare and have everything ready. And these numbers just show it, over and over again. And I just wanted to point out, if we notice, 278 properties under contract versus 555 that were sold in the last 2 months. If we were just to divide that into the 555, we're still at like 262 properties or 260 properties. And with that being said, when you only have 165 active, and we were basically closing 265 or 260 a month, that tells you we're short on inventory. We don't even have enough for 1 month. We really don't. And especially if listings are not coming up, we're down 4% this week, 29% for the year. That's even going to make it more difficult, right? So the trend is showing we're going to start hurting unless people start putting their house on the market.
Yeah.
So
do you see that maybe there is a growth of inventory with condo type properties as opposed to single family homes? Can you speak to that?
Yeah, well, there are condo type properties are always a growth in that, and a lot of times that's because of the city, right? The city has a ton of condos, and a lot of times people are leaving the city because they want to do the single family home thing. They're done being in, well, they're still in the corporate world, but they're done being in the corporate world living there. Right. Yeah, sure. So now they want to go to the suburbs. They want to get their kids in a specific school district or being next to their parents. And, they want the white house with the picket fence, right? Or the house with the white picket fence. So that is a trend that is still occurring. It's always occurred. And there are people coming into the city. It's not like there isn't. It's just not as much as normal.
Got it.
I did have a condo this month that I did sell. It did go under contract, but it did take some creative marketing, and it took us to do some price changes, and it took us to keep chasing after it and doing open houses. And we sold it in under 30 days, but it was a city condo, and it not like in the suburbs. In the suburbs, depending on school districts and areas and locations, but in the suburbs, you put a nice condo on the market and it's gone in, a day. Yeah. So that's the big difference there.
Can you share with our audience members, for the sellers, especially the ones selling with you, all of them selling with you, what is their life event as to why they're selling? Are they moving out of state? Are they upgrading or downsizing? That's the other bookend. Can you speak to that, Stewart?
Yeah, so what I'm coming across right now are people in transition. And transition could be anywhere from moving out of state, slowing down, getting ready to retire, or already retired, but they didn't feel it was the right time to sell their house 5 years ago. Those people are transitioning, and they are looking for the smaller ranches, which finding a ranch these days, oh my God, that's really difficult. A nice ranch is gone within seconds, and predominantly because we're all getting older, and so the older community, and I consider myself older, I'm 57, so the older community is really starting to look at ranches quite a lot. And they're selling instantly. And so you have these people that have their homes, some may be half paid off, 3/4 paid off, or fully paid off, and they're able to go in and put a bid on a ranch for more than asking price and cash it out. So it's something that's happening quite a bit. The
Yeah.
transition's there. The suburbs are doing very, very well. They're selling very quickly. And again, the mental note for everyone is you have to ask yourself, and whether you're working with me or not, it doesn't matter. You have to ask yourself, if you have not sold in the first 2 weeks and you're in a suburb, and even if you're in a suburb that, some people may question as far as, safety or school district, that's irrelevant. If you
Yeah.
are in a suburb and you're on the market for more than 2 or 3 weeks, you're doing something wrong. Your
Yeah.
house is not being presented properly, or you're not at the right price. You're asking too much money.
Yeah. Or what you did wrong, audience members, for those of you selling, planning to sell, or actively selling now. And just like Stewart mentioned, if in 2 weeks you're not getting the thunder of offers rolling in, let's call it like it is. The first thing you did wrong was you chose the wrong real estate broker. Right?
Sometimes, and that may be true in a lot of aspects, but there are times where, as real estate agents, we have to work for our client, and we do the best we can and give the best advice we can. But at the same time, trying to prove to the client that we're going to do what you're asking, even though it's not necessarily the right thing.
True.
And so there are realtors out there that get caught. They get caught between a rock and a hard place. They price it, and the person insists on not doing anything, and they put it on the market, and it sits and it sits and it sits.
Yeah.
And so it's not to the realtor's fault. Most of the time realtors try to give good advice, at least good realtors do. And if the public doesn't listen, then, they have to learn the hard way.
Yeah. Is the market right now unkind for investors? Do you see a lot of investors sitting on the sideline because inventory is tight, prices have continued to slowly increase, stay flat? Certainly, for an investor, they want to pick something up pennies on the dollar. So what's your thoughts on that?
It depends on the type of investor. There are some investors who will be very, very tight on numbers, and they'll be very stringent on what they will and won't pay for a property.
Right.
Those investors may find themselves just waiting right now.
Okay.
If they're a fluid investor, those investors can still capitalize. There are still a lot of people who don't want to do a lot of work and are willing to take a haircut on the price of their home in order to sell. And of course, because the market is so strong, once that investor fixes that place up and goes to sell it, they'll have no problem selling it as long as they're reasonable in their price and they did good work, right? There are investors out there that do terrible work, and well, then it shows. But as long as you do something decent, those fluid investors can do well. They really can. They may not make as much as it was in the past, where you can make $80,000 on a flip. Maybe they only make 40, maybe they make 50, but who's not going to take $40,000-$50,000 in 2 months, right?
True that. And for those of you who are watching this who may be investors, or someone in your circle of friends who's an investor, let me highlight this as well. For those investors that just sold something to avoid tax penalties, because they have a time frame of executing a 1031 exchange with the help of Stewart. Yeah, the time is now. You got to look for the right one. And Stewart, because you and your team cover a large part of Chicagoland, both residential and commercial, it's worth it. It's worth their time to reach out to you to have a conversation, right?
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I work all 6 counties. I've been in this industry for 18 years. I've done over 1,500 transactions, and I really work hard to get my people, whether you're an investor or an end consumer. I really work hard to make sure you get the best for the best price.
Yeah. Let's shift gears now and let's talk about and share the 3 things sellers must do now. You want to lead in with your thoughts on that?
Yeah. So number 1, do some research on realtors. Don't just go with the first person that's sent to you. And, most importantly, don't just go with the realtor that comes in with a fancy brochure book, right? Anybody could have something printed up and spend, $100 on a brochure book, and they don't back it up, right? So you really want to try and find somebody that's can back up what they say, right? Or what they show you.
Right.
And that's the real important part, because anybody could say, I do this, I do that, I do this, and they don't really do any of it. Or, they used to do it and they don't do it anymore. So don't be fooled by the flash. Really, take a little bit of extra time to do some internet research, and you will find reviews, you will find truth, you will see numbers. Zillow shows numbers about real estate agents, and things of that nature. And along those lines, just one quick thing about that is, don't be fooled by the team as well, right? There are people who will show you team numbers, and they'll show you, we've sold 300 homes in the last year.
Right.
But they also have 25 people that they're counting that 300 homes in the year for. Right. So, what that breaks down to is, of the 300 people, they each do 12 transactions. Well, 12 to 13 transactions per person is really a below average realtor. So, again, think about it carefully when you look at a team, because not all teams are cracked up to what they say they are to be.
Yeah. They certainly sell on the fact of we have so many people to help you divide and conquer, but sometimes for the right seller, you want that one-to-one personal touch, right?
Right. Exactly. And that's exactly what it is. For me, example, I have a couple people that help me, that work under me. I have 7 agents that work under me, and they will, run errands for me, do this or that. But really, I do all the business. I answer my phone. You never get my assistant. You never get my, agent who's answering questions for you. You got a question or a problem, you're coming to me directly. So that's important as well. And then I know we got a little off base, but the other 2 things that sellers should absolutely must be doing is preparing their home to the best of their ability. That is a must. I can't emphasize enough, every $1,000, without getting crazy, right? You don't want to go into your home and put $55,000 into it and then expect to get $155,000. So that's not going to happen. Right. But you certainly, every $1,000, for lack of a better term, that you put into your home to make it look nicer or better, is going to come back threefold. So you will get $3,000 for it. And maybe you can't monetize it exactly, but what will happen is you'll get 2, 3, 4, 5 offers instead of that one and only offer of the guy who's looking at you saying, well, I've got to invest $5,000, but I'll do the work and I'll make it happen.
Yeah. At the end of the day, all of us, we want choices. And, if you're doing the right thing, following the advice and lead from Stewart, the more choices in front of you, the better the outcome. Let me contribute one additional thing that a seller must do. And I think you might agree, Stewart, which is got to have a plan B, which is after you sell your home quickly, much quicker than you thought with Stewart's help, where are you going to go? Right, Stewart?
For sure.
How do you help someone in that situation, in that predicament where things happen so quickly? Any thoughts that you care to share?
Yeah. So, usually the first thing before we even start the process of selling their home, I'm asking them where they're going, what they're doing. Right. So we have a plan from that standpoint. And that's really a key element to your added bonus. It really is planning. Right. So if you're going to buy, naturally, you want to hook up with a good lender like yourself, Bill. Get the information, get the numbers, know what your buying power is with or without having to sell your home, which is important in this market. Right. And then, know where you're going. If you're going to another state, talk to your realtor about getting you a referral. 9 times out of 10, they belong to a referral network that they can connect you with a true professional and someone that they know and trust. or at the very least that they have stats on that show, that it's going to be a pretty good transaction, or at least it should be.
Yeah, yeah. So let's now flip the coin over and talk about the three things that a buyer or buyers must do. You want to respond to that, Stuart?
Yeah. So I think buyers, one mistake that they're making right now is they are looking only at the shiny penny.
Yeah.
Don't just look at the shiny penny. Look at some of the houses that have great bones.
Right.
If the house has great bones and you can get away with, painting and some minor repairs, or, maybe you need someone to help you change some light fixtures, or, you need to hire a handyman to change out a sink in the bathroom, things of that nature, basic remodeling, even if it's flooring, if you need to change the flooring, that's okay. But believe it or not, that's where you're going to get the best deal. You're going to get the biggest bang for your buck buying that ugly duckling and just putting a little bit into it. One of the reasons why the market is so high right now is because the average buyer no longer is doing or believes in sweat equity.
True.
So for those of you people who are somewhat handy or not afraid to hire a handyman and can look at things from a perspective of it's really nice, it just needs some love, you're going to make out well.
Yeah. And for those of you who may not be as handy, so you think, there's this thing called YouTube. There's a lot of videos that you can watch that you can quickly educate yourself on how to do some basic things yourself, and then bring in the bigger guns, the more experienced contractor for the things that may be, require too much of your time. So think about that. And back to what you just said, you're right. For those sellers and buyers, making that transition from, let's say, that 2-story home, because they do not want to do the stairs anymore, and they want to go to a ranch home. But I know this for a fact, a lot of the times when they make that transition, they don't want to give up the space. So what they may be looking for, right? You nod your head. They want still a lot of the space. But in that context with what Stewart shared with all of you, look for that ranch that might be a little ugly, a little dated, and then you can rip and replace things as you go over a short period of time. So well said. Well, care to drop another must do for buyers?
Yeah. So another must do for buyers is, really be ready with your loan, of course. In fact, that's number one, right? Be ready with your loan. Have your lender 100% on board with you, with an idea of how much your mortgage payment is going to be. I've had many people who qualify for, for lack of a better term, $350,000, $400,000, but they just don't realize that the payment's going to be $3,500, $3,400, $3,200. They still are thinking back in the days of 3% interest and payments are going to be $2,400. That's not here anymore. We're not doing $2,400 payments on a $400,000 house. It's just not going to happen. So, talk to your lender about payments as well as maximum buying power. That way you're not at the last minute going, how much is this a month?
I know. I know. One of the things I always lead off with when I'm starting a conversation with a buyer is, let's help you figure out what is your maximum purchasing power and your maximum borrowing capacity. To that point, right on. I joke with buyers in this way as well, which is it'll take you longer to find the right home that you want to buy than for me to qualify, pre-approve you, and deliver the loan, especially in today's times. And then one thing I'll contribute to a must do for buyers. Buyers, I've been there before. You got to start the process early. So hypothetically, if you are renting a property now, your lease is going to be coming to an end sometime in September. Well, hey, get on it. You should have started like yesterday, having a conversation with Stewart and your chosen lender, because in a tight supply, low inventory situation, you may be writing offers a few times, competing against other buyers. You got to plan ahead for that, right?
For sure. You
Yeah.
really have to be prepared to be in for the long haul in this market, because you could go, 3, 4 houses in a row before you win one.
Yeah.
So
yeah, we've both been there, especially within the past year and a half, Stewart.
yeah.
As we wrap up, everyone, for those of you who have shared your time with us today, who have continued to enjoy the content that Stewart Ramirez and I share with you, when and if either you or someone that you know and trust can benefit from our help, it's really simple. The best way to get started is simply scan the QR codes that you see here. It's as easy as doing that. And in doing so, as Stewart mentioned, both of us or one of us will start a conversation with you, because we will answer your call and get you moving through the next parts of your journey. So, Stewart, as we wrap up today's episode, because we're both wearing a floral Hawaiian shirt, enjoy the rest of your afternoon today.
Absolutely. Thank you. You too, Bill. Goodbye, everyone. Enjoy. As always, my favorite saying, enjoy life.
Absolutely. Right on. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.